Thank you everyone for your attendance today. And of course, today's topic is data management for owners. And really, it's really going to be focusing on, connecting everything from that common data environment, Autodesk Construction Cloud, to one of the products that we, of course, work with is Archibus for the facilities management side of things. So we will get going here. So again, we'll start with some introductions here, a little bit about us as IMAGINiT for those who are not familiar with us, and then talk about the data management for owners, talking about the data formats that owners use today, what designers are using, how owners can leverage the Autodesk Construction Cloud, and then getting the data from that Construction Cloud into Archibus, and then managing the facilities with Archibus and talking about space management, preventive maintenance, and compliance there. So some introductions here. So again, my name is Scott Burke. I'm one of our engagement engineers on the BSD side. So I just work with our sales team doing presentations like this, working with our clients, helping to implement the software, planning those implementations, and so on there. And been with IMAGINiT about 21 years and been working in the industry since about 1992. So let me hand this over to Ryan to introduce himself.
My name is Ryan Tinsley. I am an applications engineer, and I support the Archibus system, and we implement, consult, and configure and customize to meet whatever needs each client has for their specific situations. And I've been doing this since 2010 now.
All right, great, thank you. All right. So let's talk a little bit about IMAGINiT here. So IMAGINiT, of course, is one of the leaders or leading companies in the Autodesk world around consulting, selling the software, but really more about the solutions and making sure that the technology's investment that you've made, you're getting the most out of it. And we're actually under the RAND worldwide as a kind of as the main company, but really IMAGINiT is one of the largest divisions in there, but we also have our own division, Ascent, that does all of the manual writing for both us and many of our competitors use our manuals, through our Ascent sister company there. But we have a RAND simulation company over there that works with simulation, and we have RAND 3D that does some of the non-Autodesk products when it comes to different types of training and things like that around those. And then if it's an Autodesk product that does 3D, that's under the IMAGINiT umbrella there. So again, we have a large footprint. We're obviously all over Canada and the US, with about 31 offices and about 430 employees. And again, we really have a lot of, we have unmatched industry experience here, spanning anything under design and manufacturing. So obviously building and architecture, construction, energy and utilities, facilities management. We work with government entities all the time. We specialize with infrastructure, civil and that type of work, manufacturing, plant and processing. All of those industries, we all work with all of them, and we have industry experts in all of these arenas here. Some on this call here, hopefully myself in building and architecture. We got Ryan for facilities management, but again, we have many, hundreds and hundreds of years of experience amongst all our teams here. And we're always looking to create, focused solutions for our clients. And we have standard workflows and methodologies and make sure that we have repeatable processes that we can do with our different clients there. And again, unmatched professional service team. We have the most experience in one place, period. And again, we have different people in different divisions. We have 35 plus people on our solutions team for under the building and construction. Our software development team is 14 plus people there. Our PLM, project lifecycle management, and desktop app automation team, another group there. We have manufacturing solutions team, and so on. So let's now get into the topic of today, and we're going to start with the data formats that owners or everyone kind of uses right now in the industry for holding your data, right? And what type of data do we have? We have contracts, we have plans, construction documents, reports, forms we need to fill out, assets we need to manage in our construction projects and such, and facilities management. And then what formats are these things in? Well, of course, Word is pretty common there. Excel, PDF, AutoCAD, Revit, images, and a whole host of other different types of data. I'm sure they're out there. These are some of the major or the common ones that vast majority of us use every single day. And another part is, where do we keep that data? So right now, some people keep them on servers, maybe servers in SharePoint, OneDrive, Google Drive, Dropbox, and many other systems. There's so many different data silos out there where we keep most of our data, right? And servers are probably the first original one, but now everyone is starting to move out into the cloud and keep things in common places so they don't have to maintain those servers anymore and they can have access anywhere. So when we look at the Autodesk Construction Cloud, what it's trying to do really here is to bring everything together into that CDE, right? That common data environment. And with the Autodesk Construction Cloud, we're certainly going to have increased collaboration, a single source of truth, connected 2 and 3D experience for both the 2D documents and our 3D documents. Because we have everything in one place, it's going to improve the accuracy of the data. It's going to standardize things. Instead of having all these unconnected systems, we have one place where we can keep almost everything, if not everything. And digitization, where we're just taking things that were traditionally paper, like forms, is a good example of that. And finally, moving those into the cloud environment. But really here, and really about today's topic, I think more than anything else, the key is that single source of truth. So instead of going to all those different silos, SharePoint, OneDrive, my server to find data, I know that I can go, if I'm using the Autodesk Construction Cloud, the vast majority, if not everything, can be stored there for my design projects or my projects that start there and move into the facilities management world. So we look at the Autodesk Construction Cloud, and that's really not a product, right? That's just a term for all of the tools Autodesk has that are cloud-based and support, and really it's design and construction cloud, because it's really not just construction, it's even facilities management at the entry level there, but it all comes under this umbrella, this term. So again, it's not a product. The Autodesk Construction Cloud is just the terminology for all of the tools. And all of the tools that are built into it, many of us, if we're already using Autodesk products, we already have access to the Autodesk Docs environment. And that is the foundation. That is going to be the foundation. Any tool that's in the cloud here, its data management or the document management aspect is Autodesk Docs. And then as you work, you can expand the different tools. BIM Collaborate is focused for the designers to host their Revit models in the cloud. Autodesk Takeoff is quantification. We're really not going to focus on that. And Autodesk Build, which we are going to talk a little bit about, which again is what we use to manage the construction process from the earliest stages through and including facilities management. So that's really what I'm going to be focusing on here too, is Autodesk Docs and the Build here too. Let's talk about getting our data ready during that construction process and so on. So with Autodesk Build, of course, it has the document management, as I mentioned. There's cost management tools for managing that data, project management, your RFIs, your submittals, all your email can be in here, meeting minutes, specification documents, reporting, scheduling tools. And of course, it's going to be all the quality control and safety management is all within here. And here's the important part at the end, the project closeout, commissioning, turnover documentation, warranty management, as-built survey. These are the tools I'll talk about how to get this data from Docs to Archibus, right? So right here, one of the key ways to get data from the Construction Cloud here is the as-built import. That's the first stage here. And this is going to allow me to take all of my data, and I'll show this in the product a little bit here, of how to get all that data out into a format, just sometimes it's just PDFs, warranty data, sheets, RFI reports, submittals. These are all things that you want at the end of a project that are traditionally handed over to the client, right? If you're an owner, one of the key things here is that you can mandate that, your construction firms, if you choose to do this, are going to use this tool. You'll host it. They'll work within your environment, and you own the data. It's always there, right? So when all that construction data and when the project is done, there's a couple of processes that we would go through to get that data into a tool like Archibus. And one of them is this as-built report, which collects all the data in Autodesk Build and just puts it into a format that's easily consumable, and I can just get it all. I could take most of the project, probably 85, even 90% of the project, and get it down to a single zip file in a single click of a button here. And then it creates that as-built report. And then another aspect here is, in fact, I'll even jump into Build now for that. Get over to that. I had it open. Where did it go? There it is. All right. So I'm in Autodesk Build here. All right. We have the files that I just mentioned. So here are all the documentation, the design models, coordination models, general project documents, maybe some cut sheets, data sheets, some shop drawings, AutoCAD design files, field models, all of the things that are part of the project, all the data, especially in that design stage. I come in here and I have all my models, right? I have my architectural model, my civil, my MEP structure, it's all here. Then I can go into my issue management. This is really a task management. This is safety issues. This is quality control, punch lists. All of these things, all of this data is here during my construction process. Here are all the forms I'm filling out in a project. It could be safety forms, safety checklists, punch lists, all types of forms that I'm filling out here. It could be finish carpentry reports, precast concrete, anything, safety forms, all of that is here, and all that data is here. These forms have been filled out, they've been submitted, they need to be reviewed, they have all types of questions and issues associated with them, and they're done, right? I have all the photos that I've taken during the entire project related to that here. All the RFIs, all the completed RFIs would be here, all the closed RFIs, which will have reports associated with them and attachments and all those other things. All that information is going to be here. The same with the submittals, right? We have all the completed submittals in progress, but again, we're at the end of a project. So a lot of this would be all the things that are done. I mean, I could filter this, of course, by the status, which is just my closed submittals. And now that's all I see. And I could then easily pick all of these and export them out manually. But again, what I'm going to be talking about here is a way to just do this in a single click. We have meetings, correspondence tracking here. This is just tracking, of course, all your emails and things on a project. This managing the schedules on the project, and again, managing all of that here and sharing the schedule with the team. Another important tool here, assets. I'll talk a little bit more about this later. This is really the commissioning tool, but let me hold off on that. So I have all this other data. I have all the construction documents and the various versions of those and the current versions, and all that information is here, what we're building the project from. Of course, I have the models in here as well, right? All those things. Let's see if I can move this thing out of my way. There we go. So let's say the project is now done, and we're now starting that process of moving from handover to the client, or if you're the owner, your data is already here, but you need to get this data into your facilities management solutions. Now, we're certainly going to be talking about Archibus, but this would be true for any solution that you're using if you want to pull this information out. So on the bottom here in Build, we have settings, and we have the as-built export. And there's some new stuff that's coming to this that will actually make the report a completely self-contained miniature version of the project, but that's still in the future, but coming very soon. But right here, I do an as-built report. So here's one I extracted yesterday, but I want to create one now. This is the latest project information. So what do? One click. I now have all the information ready. Now I can choose, I can edit this here. I want to include references here. I want to include references and attachments for all the project items. Let's get that too, right? And then down here, I can edit the details, and I could choose, do I just want the current sheets? Do I want every sheet? And if those sheets have markups on them, do I want to include the markups, or only the markups that are linked to RFIs? Again, you have all these choices. Do you want all the RFIs, or just the closed ones? All the submittals, or just the closed ones? Do I want every single file in that folder I showed you, or just the basic files, PDFs and JPEGs, Excel and doc files, but ignore AutoCAD, Revit, things like that? Or do I want everything? Yeah, I want everything. Or maybe I only want the model files. Or I can come in here and just very specifically pick any of these file formats and exclude ones I don't want. So much control here, so easy to create this. Okay. I make all my settings here, and I simply hit create the as-built. It'll take, I'm not sure how long, maybe an hour. It'll go ahead and extract everything. And then I can just come right here and extract that out download that as a self-contained zip file that has everything in it. It has a map. You open it, hyperlinks go to the different things in there. All is one file here. And then you could import that into the document library into Archibus, so you have all that information there. So that's the first step you might want to do to get everything out, right? Then moving on here, we look at the assets, right? So in Autodesk Build, we have this asset tool, which is really about managing the installation process of anything you want, but it is very often and commonly focused on HVAC. In equipment, it's in the building, things that you need to maintain, whatever the type of building it is. I work with a company, for instance, that did paper plants. So they needed to manage all the equipment that worked in that plant, right? The pulpers and all the processing tools. So they commissioned everything. They took photos of each piece of equipment and had the base plate information on one that had the serial number and all the information about that. They took photos of, here's the equipment that's been installed. And that's all part of the assets there. But also here, it's going to be the status, warranty information, manufacturer, model number, serial number, any of those things are all going to be able to be imported in here. And then you go through the commissioning process during construction. Well, at the end, this is a very important part of the handover from maintenance and everything in the facilities tool, right? So again, you can look at all these assets. You can even start with Revit, right? And start with Revit. All the information is there, extract it out, create the assets, and have them linked so that you can select an asset inside of Build and go to the model to see where it is and see the information associated with it. And generate all your assets from the Revit model. And then once I've done that and I want to get this into my FM tool here, one of the ways I can do this, of course, is to gather all the asset information and export that as an Excel file. And I have access to all that information that can then very easily be imported into certainly Archibus or many of the other FM tools out there are going to be able to, consume this data. And again, back inside of Build here, here are my assets. And I have my different categories. It could be casework, electrical, fixtures and furniture, foundation information, HVAC equipment. And then that's broken down into all the different subcategories, diffusers, heat pumps, VAV boxes. And in fact, these VAV boxes were extracted. I got this information from my Revit model. So I can take a look at this particular VAV box here and pick any of these here and see the status. I can see, what models they're connected to, references, activity on them, things I've done with, all of these different things here. And then I can see, basically what it's essentially connected here to. So let's go into some of my other things here. There it is. And let's go back to my VAV boxes. I have a couple here that need to make sure I have the right ones that are connected to my model here. There we go. So I had picked one of my VAV boxes. There's the model that it was extracted from. Let's open that. Takes me to the model view inside of Docs. The projects, all the information is here. And it takes me to that particular VAV box right here. And now I can see that. And I can see that if it's just a manually placed one here, or if it's one that is from the 3D model. So if I go back to assets here, once again, we'll go to one of my diffusers. And if I can find it, there we go. And I can select the model here. In this case, it's going to go to the model where I extracted all the diffusers from this. And it takes me to that very specific diffuser in that model here, and I know where it is. So it's very easy for me to look at this information, get to that data, to reference where was this installed, where is this, right? Very useful information. But again, once I take all these assets, I can filter to the very specific tool that grouping or everything. I take all categories or maybe just all of the HVAC equipment, pick it, and then I just export it out right here, either as a PDF or a CSV or Excel. The bottom two can easily be exported into whatever system that you want, of course, right? So a very important way, one of the three kind of key ways to get data from here. So the as-built will gather all the data about the project, with the exception of assets. Assets is separate. You come in here, you get this information, but all the other supporting documentation is going to be in the files. That could include warranty information, maintenance information that was attached to the equipment is all there. So I've done that now. So I've gotten that information out, but you know, I have an AutoCAD file. Maybe I'm not using Revit, we're just using AutoCAD. That's fine. You can still use all of the Construction Cloud when it comes to Autodesk Build and have AutoCAD files that you then make PDFs for the construction document. But I have AutoCAD here, which has polylines and things in there and some data here. It's not as rich as Revit, but it's still very useful. And you want these floor plates, you want to be able to import them into Archibus and see the plans. And a very common thing, I've been doing this for, you know, I've known of this for 20 years plus, and I used to work with teams that we would polyline all the information here around the rooms, and those polylines became the basis for the rooms that would then be imported into Archibus, which I can grab directly here. I can open up using the Archibus plugin, open up the model that lives in the cloud, open it, and extract that data out of that AutoCAD file, create the polylines, all the information. Again, one common data environment, right? Even Archibus is pulling data directly from that Revit, that AutoCAD file that's up in the cloud. So I can open AutoCAD here. You know, I have polylines I put around the rooms, all the information is there, and I have that Archibus plugin right here, which allows me to go in and, you know, get that information right there. I log in, I have my Explorer here, I can connect things to the spaces, to assets, whatever, and push that information into Archibus directly from AutoCAD here. And if I look in the cloud and I look in one of these projects here, see that file's locked because I'm in it right now in that AutoCAD file. And here's a Revit file that's also in that environment, in that single project right here. So inside of Revit, I can navigate, open that file, but this is even more powerful here on the Revit side because it can be more bi-directional here. So now I have my Explorer, which allows me to go in and explore the information, explore the different things in this project right here. And now I go through here and I can see this mechanical equipment. So this is all the mechanical equipment in the project here and such. See if I can find something that is connected properly here. And that takes me to that piece of equipment. There it is, right? And here's all the information based on that piece of equipment right there. And the key here, when you look thinking about facilities management in this, everything actually starts at that design stage. It actually starts at the facilities management tool. So you have an FM tool, whatever that may be. Again, we're talking about Archibus here, and it has a set of values or parameters, information that it needs. So you ensure that that information is part of your BIM execution plan. It becomes part of your design, and you make sure that the Revit data has those fields, and then you can map them if they're differently named, and map certain fields from the Revit model to the fields that are required in the Archibus environment. But now I have this nice bi-directional tool. As I update my Revit model, I can update Archibus with that information. So now I'm going to various different pieces of equipment, and I have all that data right here on that equipment. So I'm in one of these centrifugal liquefied chillers right here, liquid chillers for cooling and such. For the project, where is it located? Here's all the equipment from here moving into Archibus. I don't even have to use the asset tool in this case, right? You could be actually deriving this data directly from the Revit model. Or I could be going to the individual rooms here. I could double click on that, takes me to the room and all the information about the room, the department, the name of the room, occupancy, whatever data you want to build in here. And then of course there'll be more data on the Archibus side. But as you change things here, they can update things in Archibus, right? So I'm pulling this information again from that CDE, from the common data environment. Everything's just living in Autodesk Docs. And not even using Build here. I'm just using the Docs portion of that, or Collaborate Pro if I'm editing my Revit model in there. And I'm able to connect the Revit model, but AutoCAD, Revit, doesn't matter. Either of those is fine, or if you don't have any of those, you still have all the information in Build. You have the asset exports, you have the PDF plans you can pull out, all of those things. So all of that really, comes from that common data environment. So again, I can go directly from AutoCAD from the cloud into Archibus. I can go all the way from Revit all the way into Archibus from the common data environment. So with that now, I think I will hand this over to Ryan here, and he can take over for the facilities management side of the equation.
So we're going to dive into the facility management side here. And the product that we primarily use is Archibus by Aptura. The current terminology in the industry today is to call it an integrated workplace management system. And essentially that just means that it is capable of handling the breadth of what facilities management entails. Usually that starts with your space inventory and then usually continues on to tracking occupancy, so you know where people are. And then from there you can expand once you have that space inventory to build off of. Though it's not strictly necessary for everything, it really enhances the experience for maintenance work orders, for workspace booking for people that are not in the office all the time, meeting reservations, leases, assets, compliance, projects, and lots of other things as well. So we're gonna kind of hit the high points here as far as what Archibus can do and talk about some specific areas. So we want to start with the space and occupancy. So that's really where, when we have that set and we've received those files from the design team, we can then turn that into an interactive way to manage all of our space and then interact with that space in many different ways. Once we have that inventory, then we can trigger maintenance request from a particular room. We can assign assets to that space. We can do assessments. We can do all kinds of things. So we want to start by looking at our space here, and then from there we can do all kinds of other things. So I'll show you. This is Archibus here. We're in the space console, and as you can see, we've pulled up a floor plan. Currently, I have it highlighting by department. So again, once we have that inventory, we can start managing the data associated with it. So now I can assign organizations to the different rooms. I can categorize those rooms. So I'm looking at it by department. I could look at it by the specific type of room. And then I do have a legend up here as well. So I can see I've got labs, meeting rooms, offices, and then a lot of primary circulation. And as I'm interacting with this, I can do things like find out how much space something takes. So I don't have to go, and this also helps for people that may not be familiar with AutoCAD, but they can still come in here and they can quickly find the information they're looking for. So as I start clicking rooms, you'll notice at the top it tells me what I've selected, and it keeps a running total of the square footage as I go. I can also use the tools in here to select a block. If I want to just say, okay, well, that actually zoomed me in. If I want to select it, I can come in here and select those. And you see it unselected the ones I had and then added these other ones instead. So I've got 12 rooms selected. It tells me how many square feet that is. If I come in here, I can see that list of rooms. I can see how they're assigned, whether or not they are hotelable, which means that they could be booked as workspaces. And I can also see the employees that are assigned and what departments and divisions they belong to. So I have a lot of information here right at my fingertips. And then I can also do things like move people around. So I'll go ahead and clear that selection. On my occupancy tab over here, now I have a list of all the employees, and I can show, I can find where people are sitting. I can move people around. I can show multiple floors and even move people between floors if I want. So if we come down here, and we can see over on this list, it tells us our occupancy and then our capacity. So if I say, okay, this floor 5 is full, maybe I want to move some people off of that floor to these less populated floors. So I'll move some people from 5 to 2. And I can come in here. I can zoom in on the 2 different floors and move them separately. Let me turn that off. And I can find some empty space. So I can come in here and say, all right, we're gonna move this section down. So I can just click the name and I can just drag it to a new room, and then it'll move it over there. If I'm moving a lot at once, or I need to like shift people in and out of rooms, there's also this waiting room at the bottom. So I can take people, I can drop them down into the waiting room, and then as I reconfigure things, I can move them back out. So I can move them in and out of the waiting room whenever I need to. So if I move a few of these here, again, it's keeping a list at the top. So it's keeping track of what I've done, showing you where they came from and where they're going to. I can remove them from that selection and it'll put them back where they originally were. If I'm satisfied with this, I can go ahead and commit those assignments right away. Or I can create a formal move order. And then that allows me to use the move application and to do extra work with those moves. Like maybe I need to set up tasks to move boxes, to relocate phones, or other tasks that are associated with a large scale move. So I'll go ahead and cancel those. And then as Scott showed, if we're working with a Revit model, we can have a new level of interactivity as well. So let me move over to another building here. If I come in here, in Archibus, we have 2 different ways to look at things in 3D. So when you first load things, they usually start in 2D. I do have the BIM viewer. So if I go to the BIM viewer, that is an Autodesk product that's built in here. We can use that to interact with our Revit model this way. And I can zoom, I can pan, I can dive into all the details, and look at all the different objects that are in my Revit model. I also have the option of using the Archibus 3D viewer. So Archibus also has one. If I hit show 3D, we go to the Archibus 3D viewer. It's a little more simplified, which depending on what you're doing may be better, or you may choose to use the BIM viewer. So it's going to show the floors that I have selected here. I can keep adding or removing floors as needed. And then I can control what I'm showing over on the right. So if maybe I don't want the interior walls to be showing right now, I don't need my ceilings in place, I can show the HVAC. So I can see the HVAC system. If I select one of the pieces of equipment that are the assets that are on this, I can actually right click on it and then go in and see the information that is held in Archibus for that asset and related assets. So it's possible to just keep track of individual assets. It's also possible to link them together into a asset or into an equipment system. So if I look here at the HVAC system, I can see all the different parts and pieces. We saw the similar things over in Revit with Scott earlier. And if I pick one of these pieces, I can see more details about it. So if you have a picture, that'll load, and I can get more details about that. So I can really dive into all of the parts and visually, and have a real visual way of seeing how things are set up, and this can be a big asset for maintenance, when you have a piece that is not frequently needing repair or needing attention, and you have to figure out where it is in a large building. That can sometimes be a very big challenge. So that's the high-level overview of the space side of things, and that really is our core. And once we have that, we can move on to maintenance. So on the maintenance side of things, we typically split that into corrective or on-demand maintenance and then preventive maintenance. So corrective maintenance would be just as you're going, people tell you something is broken. Whereas preventive maintenance would be things that you schedule to maintain an asset, and usually those tasks are prescribed by the manufacturer or by just experience for that particular type of asset, and those help things continue to run without breaking down, so you don't have to do anything corrective with them. From a facilities management side, that means in Archibus we can allow people to enter work orders, so you can open that up to as few or as many people as you like. We can manage complex workflows over a large portfolio of buildings. We have a lot of clients that are nationwide or international, and they have very different workflows for different locations, even in the same state. And we can manage those and make sure that work gets routed and people are notified however is most efficient for that situation. Then on the preventive side, we can set up all those scheduled tasks, manage when they come out so that we can make sure that things don't get missed. We can attach documentation so that that's at their fingertips. And we can even set up either simple or complex questionnaires and checklists so that it's easy to make sure that things are done, that there's a really good paper trail, and that and also allow things like triggering additional work requests if we find a deficiency when we're doing the preventive maintenance. So we have lots of opportunities for maintenance and really preserving our assets and making sure that they last their full expected lifetime or even beyond. So on the asset side, which I would say after your space inventory, your assets are really, buildings are an asset, but all of your other equipment type assets, furniture, all that can be managed. Wrong one. Within Archibus as well. So we're taking a look at something called the Asset Lifecycle Console here. This groups all of your asset types that you have in Archibus all together. So you can see it shows all your buildings, and then we can also look at other types of assets as well. So properties, which would include the land, those can be tracked as well if you're using this for real estate. And then equipment and furniture. So if we focus in on equipment here, we have the opportunity for having a list of things that we're both working on, and then things that we might want to assess as well. We can generate assessments to make sure that that things are functioning properly, that we're meeting compliance requirements, which was our third point. So compliance is a big deal. And it's becoming increasingly common to have even more than one agency that you have to comply with the requirements for. Every industry is different, and a lot of times you've got multiple places you're going to have to report to. So from the facilities management side, what we can do to help is we can track those compliance requirements in a detailed or a non-detailed fashion in Archibus. And then we can also, I think the biggest thing that we can do to help with that is that we can have that paper trail. So when you are asked a question about, okay, have you been servicing this regularly and can you prove it? You can say, yeah, I can prove it. and a few clicks, and you've got a whole list of all of the preventive and corrective maintenance that has happened on any given asset. Or you can even see all of the surveys. We can also handle environmental hazards, so we can track the locations of hazardous materials and be able to highlight those on a map. We can do the material safety data sheets. We can track incidents and response. We can track remediation progress. So many different things. So let's take a look at a couple of those things. So on the asset side, since we're in the console here, let me find an asset for us to look at. Once we find say we have let's say an air handler unit here. If I want to take a look at that air handler unit and make sure that I've done the work to comply, I can go to this activities section here, and that's going to show me everything that has happened to this asset in Archibus. So I can see I've got 1 survey here and 12 work requests, and then I can even see what status those are in. I can look at historical activities as well. So I can see there's another 24 that have been completed in the past. If I click one of these numbers, I can go down and see the actual details of each of those. So I can see, what happened, and then I can further click in and see that actual work request. And all of this is also exportable to as well. So you can quickly get it out and send it where it needs to go. Or maybe another popular one is fire extinguishers, especially. There are lots of requirements around how often those have to be inspected. And if I do have an inspector come up and say, okay, show me your documentation on this, I can just go find that fire extinguisher, and then I can look at the activities and doesn't have any. And I can show, that I have done the work on that particular asset. So let me find one. So if I open up that asset, I can see, again, all the things that have happened that are either ongoing or have been completed, and I have that documentation at my fingertips. We can also do projections and analysis. So under reports, we have a lot of different options. If I want to talk analysis, I can look at failure analysis. I can see, how many corrective tickets I'm getting on a particular asset, the number of time that it was down, the total costs for any work I had to do on that asset. That's all right here. I can see what's going on. So I can take a look at that asset and see, okay, I've had quite a few different work I've had to do on here, and you can see it was pretty expensive for this. So maybe it's time to replace that asset. I can also track the usable life that's left. So if I look at replacement analysis, let's look at our air handler units. So if I take one of these air handler units, I can see, okay, how the number of life expectancy, and in this case, I've exceeded that. So I'm already 2 years past the expected use, but maybe it's time to start planning. So many different ways that we can utilize our data so that we have a quick way of answering the questions we get, both from regulatory agencies as well as just our managers and executives, so that they can have that quick high-level view to make better decisions. And then finally, before we take some questions here, let's talk about a few more of these compliance items. So there's a lot of different things we can do beyond these basic core fundamentals. I mentioned a few. We can look at egress plans. So this particular module is set up to quickly get first responders the information that they need. So we can see egress routes in here. We can highlight hazardous materials. So if we're, that varies by industry, but if we are keeping hazardous materials that we need to keep track of, this allows us to highlight the exact locations of those materials. They can also quickly locate a staff member. So again, when you have that occupancy set up, then if I want to find somebody, then I can just look up their name and when I pick that person, hit show, and then it's going to show me exactly where they're seated. It highlights the room for me, and I can find that person. And then we can do many things beyond that, managing disposal, doing remediation, having an incident alert system for any incidents that may happen. Lots of options, but it all starts with that at that design phase where we get all this data, we are able to get it exported to us, import it, interact with it, and then we can build on that as basic or as deep as we want to go. We're happy to discuss any other things you guys might want to, and dive deep, do more demos, whatever it is we can to help you. We will be opening up to Q&A here in just a few seconds.